What's up, everybody, and welcome to Inside the Game, your one source for everything cool in video games. You can always be a part of our show. All you have to do is go to insidethegame.ca or hit us up in Discord, where there you can submit your clip and end off our show. What's coming up on this week's episode? Here it is. It's the rundown.
Now, in the hub, you are able to customize your mech.
PlayStation took to the spotlight once again to showcase 7 new VR titles.
So this week I'm grabbing my Nintendo Switch and I'm checking out a police action RPG called Pecaminosa.
Insomniac is back, and while we're not getting our hands on another Spider-Man quite yet, we're actually jumping back into the world of Ratchet Clank Rift Apart. Another jam-packed episode, so let's get started. Scott kicks things off with some MechWarrior 5.
It's time to suit up in our battle mechs. We're taking a look at MechWarrior 5. This week, I would like to take some time to talk about MechWarrior 5. This game is a pretty fresh release, and it's also on Game Pass day one. That was interesting, but regardless, I got a chance to take a look at it, and I want to talk about some of the things they did really well, and perhaps not so well, but we'll get to that. Firstly, I have to address the campaign. It is actually all campaign. There's no sort of multiplayer aside from the ability to bring a friend into your campaign to play that cooperatively, which is definitely good, but it's just lacking the PvP multiplayer environment that was very important in the second game. But let's get into the campaign. You have this base that you kind of come back to, this hub that you take on missions at and interact with your mechs or the computers to plot your headings and go on missions. But I said plot your headings because there's this very large environment that's going on. It appears that you have some agency on where you want to go off the campaign and what kind of missions you want to take on when you get there. There's a few different varieties of mission that you can get, and they seem to be the kind of run-of-the-mill things you would expect. Not to say that that's a bad thing, but just it's not terribly imaginative. Now, in the hub, you are able to customize your mech, and it seems to be pretty detailed. You can change your armor platings, you can swap out what weapons are on the hard points, you can set up those weapons to fire on several different buttons, depending on what you want to pair. You know, 2 lasers firing with 1 trigger pull, that kind of thing. There's a lot of different weapon types, so I think that's represented pretty well. But it is quite complicated to get into it and to figure out how you buy these weapons or loot them. And you have a variety of mechs to choose from, which is definitely a cool thing. But it's just a little bit daunting when you're trying to manage some repairs and, you know, you have a large militaristic mission, but all you have is this very lightly armored mech. It kind of imposes some difficulty on you. But if you manage that well, it's definitely a rich system to get a hold of. And you can not only customize the weapons and mechs that you have, you can go into the paint schemes and make your mech kind of colored and painted up the way you would enjoy it. It's really interesting that they have that level of detail. Now, I want to get into some of the things that I sort of have a problem with this title. Some of them are not so important, some are quite a major omission, but I'll get into that. First of all, this game doesn't look bad. I'm not going to say that. But it just kind of lacks what I would expect from the new consoles. I'm running this on an Xbox Series X. It is stated to have some upgrades, I believe, in resolution and frame rate. That seems to be the way. But I'm just not seeing anything on the maps that really would warrant updated graphics. And I'm certainly not seeing the level of resolution I would expect. Now, the maps are pretty empty. They're kind of just open, barren lands with some cities popping up, some smaller buildings perhaps that you're raiding, but it just seems to be these large, open, expansive environments. There's not a lot of vistas or a need of a photo mode in this title for sure. That leads me to another problem that I have, which is just that everything seems to be a little slow. Your mech, understandably, is a large mechanized war machine. I don't think that should move very quickly, but when you're crossing kilometers at a time to get to your next objective, it's kind of just an experience that takes you away from the game. Makes for a dry experience. I can put my controller down even and just let it walk several minutes to the next objective. The combat doesn't really seem all that exciting. You're targeting each other from a super exaggerated distance, and you're shooting just volleys of missiles, but it doesn't seem very high-paced. It often just seems like my health bar has to last longer than their health bar, and we're just firing everything we've got, and it's just not that exciting. There's very little depth to that, and that's a much bigger problem than any other issue I have with this game. Is when it comes to the combat, you're shooting a lot of tanks from kilometers away, and there's no real danger until you find a mech, and then it's either over or you beat them, and then mission done. Lastly, I want to touch on what I find to be the biggest issue with this release of MechWarriors. There's no PvP. MechWarriors 2 excelled and got the popularity under its name all because of PvP Online. And that's where the real competition edge could come up. If I customize my mech, I'm leveling it up over battles, and then I bring it to a fight to fight somebody else's customized mech. You can see how this could become very adversarial. So we've talked about the good things this game has and some of the problems that I have. It's definitely a mixed bag when it comes to my feelings on this title. It is enjoyable. I do really appreciate the level of detail in the campaign. I think it was quite imaginative in the way it was told, and the storylines and the factions. That stuff is all really, really cool. I enjoy it a lot. But the kind of just slow campaign combat and the lack of anything else, no multiplayer, that really takes away from my experience in this title. I'm left with a 6 out of 10. MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries is an impressive amount of depth and detail to be found in the campaign mode. Ultimately, the omission of PvP multiplayer and dated combat causes this title to fall short of expectations.
We're big fans here of VR and what it has to offer. There's so many different worlds and experiences that you can have within the world of VR. And when PlayStation took to the spotlight once again to showcase 7 new VR titles, you knew we had to cover it. Starting things off was Rebellion in a new partnership with Just Add Water and CodeSync, which brings on a new addition to the multi-million selling series, Sniper Elite. You experience a powerful World War II story through the eyes of an Italian partisan rising through your brothers and sisters to protect your homeland from the facet forces that threaten to destroy your home. There's one thing that always stood out in the Sniper Elite series, and that's the X-Ray kill cam. And now we get to experience it in the world of VR. Sniper Elite VR is set to release on July 8th, which is just around the corner. Wanderer is an action adventure set in an alternate timeline, one where nature has taken over and everything you know about your real world has been flipped on its head. Is it within your control to change back the course of history, or are some things just inevitable? No release date was given for Wanderer, but it's definitely a puzzle adventure to keep your eyes on. And Dreams was here to show us Fracked. This is a jam-packed action shooter. Definitely looks like it's got a new spin and a nice take for the world of PSVR, and one we can't wait to get our hands on. They were able to highlight fast action adventure gameplay, which will be experienced on foot and while skiing and climbing. Fract equips you with an interactive arsenal, as well as special weapons, providing you with the tools to step into the shoes of an action hero. If you're looking for zombies and some co-op action, then look no further than After the Fall. After the Fall is an immersive thrill ride with fast-paced 4-player co-op action in the 1980s inspired post-apocalyptic Los Angeles. This is not your typical sunny LA though. In After the Fall, all hell is frozen over and LA has been left in ice-covered ruins. Set nearly 20 years after the apocalypse, the city is overrun with furious, once-human creatures called the Snowbreed. They've taken humanity below ground, where they continue on a raging fight for survival. From action-packed to something a little bit more calming and relaxing, we're talking about Winds and Leaves. In Winds and Leaves, we were brought back from the dead, given another chance and to make things a little bit more peaceful and stop the cataclysm. Look for Winds and Leaves on July 27th. Puzzle Bobble 3D Vacation Odyssey enters onto a new dimension on the PlayStation VR, PS4, and PS5. Bub and Bob are back and ready to aim, shoot, and pop in a reimagined classic launching later this year. Puzzle Bobble 3D is a vibrant and colorful world that will have us solving puzzles in 3D for the first time. Well, this could be one we'll be checking out soon. And lastly was the Tenchu-inspired Arashi Castles of Sin. This game looks like the stealth samurai game we've all been waiting for, something we want to experience in VR. Very cool looking, without a doubt. It looks like we're an elite shinobi, last of the surviving of the noble house Arashi. There are castles across feudal Japan that are captured by ruthless bandits, and us and our companion Haru, a sidekick wolf, is out for revenge. Can't wait for this one to show up, hopefully very soon. No release date yet. All we know is it's coming in summer 2021. There you go, dust off your PlayStation VR. That's right, there are 7 new titles on the way. Let us know, what one are you looking forward to the most? Hit us up, insidethegame.ca.
This week I'm trying my hand at private investigating in Pecaminosa.
No, the little one. Oh, don't worry. That's not how my story ended. Neither how it started. Screw this city.
So this week I'm grabbing my Nintendo Switch and I'm checking out a police action RPG called Pecaminosa, a pixel noir story. And this gives me some real Dick Tracy style vibes. I mean, we're kind of a rough and tumbled ex-detective, John Sousa, and we're trying to redeem ourselves now because we've been visited by the last mob boss we killed, Charlie Two Angels, and he's come back to give us a little bit of redemption. He's tasked us with kind of going around town, cleaning up some of the mob bosses that are left over, and we've been given the promise that if we do this, we will be allowed on to heaven when we do decide to pass on. This is a very kind of interesting, dark, kind of weird story right from the get-go, but it does kind of follow that classic, 40s, 50s private investigator style thing, which was, kind of what drew me right in. I mean, I really enjoyed the art style here. The pixel art was beautiful. There are some light RPG elements that I did also enjoy, but this game definitely had some issues. But honestly, I'm going to get into the story first before anything else. We are ex-detective John Sousa. Like I said, we've been visited by Charlie Two Angels. We've been tasked to go around town, Pecaminosa, which is this dark kind of rough town. Then we're cleaning it up a little bit, and this is our kind of last kick at the can, last chance. And we do collect things along the way, whether it be items, different weapons, things like that. So first getting into this game, I was drawn in by the story and the art style and the music immediately. It was all really, really well done. I thought, this just had that look, that vibe. But unfortunately, I started playing in handheld mode, and because this game does kind of have this dark undertone to it, everything is pretty dark in this game, especially in the city environment. So I actually ended up putting it on the TV because I just couldn't get it bright enough on the Switch handheld. So early on in this one, we get introduced to the controls of the game. It plays very much like a 90s twin stick shooter. You know, the left stick to move around, the right stick to aim, and then we're going to use the right bumper to whether, you know, it's attack, essentially. It's going to be shoot the gun or use your melee. And honestly, this feels so clunky. I mean, it keeps true to the nostalgia of how these games used to play, but honestly, I found myself trying to use the D-pad just because of the way the movement works in this game. I kind of thought the D-pad would work a little nicer than the stick, but the D-pad's actually assigned kind of as a quick inventory selection or quick weapon swap. So I found myself dropping items or using them when I didn't want to sometimes because I was just trying to use that D-pad all the time. But you do have to get used to using that twin stick, and it just felt a little clunky. I mean, after playing about 3.5 hours of this game, you kind of get through it and all the combat feels the same way, and it doesn't really, satisfy you at all. You just kind of get in there, you jam the attack button, and you either block it, with left bumper, attack with right bumper, and that's it. And you either die or you don't. I found that ammo is very scarce in this game. You shouldn't use it like crazy because you can't always pick it up. You do pick up quite a few healing items, which is nice, and you can pause and use those healing items as well, so you're not having to jump through the menus a quick time in the middle of a battle. But honestly, like I said, there's just something about this combat that just doesn't feel that satisfying overall, and it's just the controls that really get to you. They just don't feel that smooth. I know that's the style of the game, but it didn't work for me. Like I said at the beginning of this review, there are some light RPG elements to this game. There's a life system that we use that as you upgrade and level up, you get experience points to put into this system. It's luck, intelligence, force, and endurance. And these 4 categories will give you kind of buffs as you go through the game. I didn't find them to be overly effective. I mean, some of them, like intelligence, will allow you to change some of your dialogue options, but again, the dialogue was really slow, and honestly, the whole pace of this game was a lot slower than I wanted it to be, especially in the movement department. When you move around in this game, you are at a snail's pace. I mean, you can upgrade in your endurance because that is supposed to increase your player's speed, but it doesn't do that. I mean, you're just so slow. You can't run, you can't jog. There is a dash button that uses your endurance, but you can only really use that a couple times in a row, and it does slow you down right after you use it anyways. So it's a little difficult. Then the pacing of this game is really where I got hung up the most. And the last part of this game that I want to touch on is actually my personal highlight, which was the boss battles. I thought they were done really, really well. I mean, it kind of takes me back to those 90s games where, once you learn the pattern of the boss, you've got them figured out, but it takes a few tries and, a little bit of frustration to get to that point, and they did a good job here. I'll say the boss battles tend to ramp up the difficulty significantly higher than compared to any other battle throughout the games, so that was kind of a little inconsistent, but overall they were done well. I thought the characters were pretty funny. They did a good job with the art style and kind of the music, so they really got involved with those boss battles. But outside of the battles, this game is really hit and miss personally, and overall I had an okay time, and I think a lot of people will be split down the middle with this one just because of the way it's laid out. The pacing of the game is really slow. It does have a somewhat interesting story with kind of interesting characters, but if you don't get hooked by that, it's going to be really hard to stick around with this one. And for a sub $20 game, you could definitely spend your money better in other places. I can only give this one a 5 out of 10. Great pixel art and a well-done soundtrack are the only good things about this one. The questionable dialogue and clunky controls will have you putting this one down sooner than later.
A town that smelled of death, sex, and gunpowder. That was Pecaminosa.
The latest PlayStation 5 exclusive has arrived, and well, nope, it's not Returnal. We're done with that one. We're moving on to another dimension.
I'm coming, Clank. If we do not get the Dimensionator now, we may lose every dimension. Oh my.
Insomniac is back, and well, we're not getting our hands on another Spider-Man quite yet. We're actually jumping back into the world of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and it's one you're not going to want to miss. If you're a fan of the old franchise, you're definitely going to feel that nostalgia, getting some of these returning characters, but yet we have new ones as well. And if you've never played Ratchet and Clank, and maybe just dabbled in it like I have in the past, because I was more of a Jack and Daxter kind of guy.
You talking to me?
Yeah, you talking to him?
Well, now I'm pleased to let you know that the latest Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart's gonna have you in pieces. Just in true Insomniac style, the game is absolutely gorgeous. The PlayStation 5 has been pushed to the limits already, it seems like, but I know we're only touching the surface when it gets into the new generation of consoles, but yet already being blown away by the visuals. It brings everything to that next level, and the introduction of the DualSense controller brings it one step further. The rumble feature is always so cool, but now it's in subtle ways that you experience, and of course with all the wacky and crazy gun mechanics, it intensifies things to a certain level that we've never played before. We've all had the crazy wacky guns, but I'm telling you, the way they introduce these mechanics and allow you to upgrade the guns, if you're new to the series, you're going to be in for one heck of a game. But if you are a returning fan, well, it's definitely a highlight you're going to enjoy, just like the others. Quickly touching on the story itself, well, in Insomniac style, it is awesome. There's no doubt they haven't missed a step here, bringing the old cast back. Some of those old quirky characters are back, and the introduction of new ones, and the latest edition of Rivet as well is fantastic. Her story alone will have me hooked to find out what's going on. You kind of figure out as you progress, but it is so well done. I absolutely love the addition of Rivet. I was surprised at how often you played as her character. I'd say you're somewhere in around a 60-40 split if you're going to play as Rivet compared to Ratchet itself. So I thought that was a bit shocking. Some fans may not like that. I know we've seen that in the past with other titles. Well, they may not be mentioned, but if you go way back to Metal Gear Solid 2, yeah, let's talk about it, because nobody wanted to play as Raiden because he took away from the star of the game. But in this sense, I don't feel that that's really done. It's a story that combines both characters. Rivet is the other side of Ratchet. She's in this other dimension, and that's how they play off of each other. She's his counterpart in the world where Ratchet lives and versus where Rivet lives. They both work off of each other. That's just one dimension, but there's so many other worlds to go and explore as well. The game is incredible, and definitely one fans are gonna love.
Haven't you punished me enough? You stupid universe! No job, no phase quartz, no planet. What else do you want, huh? My mind? Fine, take it!
If it helps, I just found out there's another dimension where Bleezar's still intact.
Still intact.
Some of the set pieces created in the world are absolutely incredible. Due to some restrictions though, however, I'm not able to showcase one in particular, but it is an on-rails scenario, and when you get to this, you will absolutely understand within the game what part I am talking about, because it is one that just takes you from one dimension into another, but yet has you in the same world at the same time. Like, it is over the top, intense, and I loved every single minute of this, I'm gonna say, experience, because it was just on a whole other level. And Insomniac's really taken the PlayStation 5 in the sense of what Rivet and Ratchet are doing, what their overall goal is, and just polished something that has been absolutely phenomenal. However, there have been a couple hiccups along my experience. I've had enemies get hitched on objects and triggers just not like loading in the world. You often, when in a game, will hit a certain part of the game that triggers a mechanic that will allow you to open a door or progress further into the story or open up some other opportunity or another wave of AI. Well, without some of these characters, like say enemies dying or getting hitched up on part of the world, I wasn't actually able to progress further into the game sometimes and had to restart. There is a patch coming. They have told us all about this patch. It's actually been a patch since I played the game as well. I've completed the game, And though I've had to restart a few times, not too many, it was still an incredible experience to play. Is it a masterpiece? I'd say almost. Absolutely. This game is so close to being perfect, but due to these little minor hitches, I'm hoping they're able to fine-tune those little bugs, and then the game is absolutely a standout. I've had an incredible time playing Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and this is definitely one PlayStation 5 fans are going to want to pick up. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is definitely one of the highlights, if not one of the best games on the PlayStation 5 so far this year. I know the year is not over, but it's definitely a contender for Game of the Year. This is one you're not going to want to miss, and puts me at a 9.5. Insomniac Games' return to Ratchet & Clank with Rift Apart is easily one of the best PlayStation 5 titles around. Great characters, storytelling, and gameplay that will have you searching for other dimensions to explore made this one of my favorite games of the year. Minor glitches that will be fixed will make Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart one of PlayStation's all-time classics.
Time to change tactics. Deploying amphibious explosives.
Throw whatever you want. You're not getting away from me.
All right, we believe in generations. This is the famous line from PlayStation leading up to PS5's launch. And what they meant with this statement is that when PS5 launches, all their heavy-hitting first-party exclusives were meant to be built on the PS5. I mean, you could even look on their website of Gran Turismo 7 where it flat out said, or even God of War where it just flat out said this will be a PS5 experience. But, you know, and at that time, leading up to the next generation of consoles release, Xbox was very transparent about, you know, we want everyone to be included for the first 2 years of the console's cycle, like every other console we've pretty much had for time. So, that being said, you know, PlayStation, now we got what? Let's think. 3 games, I think? Maybe 4 that are a true PlayStation 5 experience. Sure. Drew, you reviewed one most recently, Ratchet & Clank. And with that game and Returnal, both of these games completely are a next-gen experience. And what has me sort of not really worried, because PlayStation, man, they haven't hit a foul ball yet. They have been doing incredible. But what I'm really worried is with the news that Ragnarok, God of War, and the next Horizon Zero Dawn, both of those having PS4 original versions and Gran Turismo 7, 3 of their big first-party titles are going to be on the previous gen. Now, this isn't necessarily a huge, you know, like, there's a little give and take, Cory, so why don't I throw this to you?
You know what? I hear you, man, because as, you know, someone that owns multiple consoles and multiple generations of consoles, you know, we might not get the first, you know, the newest gen right away. Availability is usually the biggest issue. Sometimes you don't have the money for it. Sometimes you just flat out want to wait and see if there's any issues, maybe get the second iteration of the new console, right? But the issues we're having here is that we want to be able to play games on all consoles. And Sony's come out and said, you know, we're going to make games just for the PlayStation 5. Don't worry, PlayStation 4. We will still make games that, you know, you can play that are supported for PlayStation 4. But the problem is those games, like you said, Horizon, God of War, those games are going to be on PS4. So how good can they be on PS5? I have no doubt the games are going to be great. I mean, we know what those games are all about. They're amazing games. But we're not going to be able to harness how much of that hardware that the PS5 has, right? We're spending, you know, $500 plus here in Canada for a PlayStation, whether it's the digital or you get the disc version. And, you know, we have to justify that. And if you can't justify that purchase, why would you buy the console? Why wouldn't you just play those games on your PS4? I mean, Drew did Ratchet & Clank. That review was amazing. That game is almost the reason I just want a PS5.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? If I was on PS4, I'd be ticked to know I had to spend $500 just to play that game. And then I have to pay for the game too. I mean, there's good and bad here, and they have to cater to everybody. They have to cater to the full community. There's too many people with a PS4 not to keep making games. But like you said, Nate, Xbox had a transparency and let their customer base know we're going to be supporting all generations. You're going to be getting an enhanced version of games for the next gen. You're going to be playing games that have, bumped up FPS, all that kind of stuff. And PlayStation they
go right away. Right away, Sackboy comes out, and it's a PS4 and PS5 game. Miles Morales comes out, and it's a PS4 and PS5 game. It was like it didn't take long for them to really kind of, I guess, eat their own words. You got Demon Souls, which is a remake and an incredible one, and then Returnal, and now Ratchet and Clank. So, I mean, that's 3 games, man. I mean, for me, if I had a PS4 Pro and then I got a PS5, I would actually be a little miffed, to be completely honest, because that is $600 that I could have maybe spent in a year.
But you do
these other
own
games come out.
the next Xbox, and where's your exclusives there? There aren't any. There are
there's like a couple.
Nothing. Really, at the bottom line is Xbox doesn't have an exclusive. They starve for exclusives on a regular basis. You join the family of PlayStation because they knock out every single exclusive they own. That's why you jump into the next generation of console for PlayStation 5 and say, hey, you know what? I know they're going to come across platform. Sure, they're now eating their words. I think Jim Ryan shouldn't have said that at all. Right? It doesn't make any sense.
Many times,
right?
He repeated himself.
No, absolutely. And I'm not defending him. I think it was an absolute mistake to say that. But because PS4 sold 110 million consoles, that's not a whole family of people who own that generation of console that you want to lose out on. But
can't leave them behind.
You're still gonna want, if you own a PS4, you're still gonna want a PS5, and then you get the likes of, okay, you played Miles Morales on PS4, now go play it on PS5. It's a completely different game, right? Then take a look at my Returnal review. Take a look at my Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart review. There's a reason why these games are hitting huge numbers. I'm not the only one who gave Ratchet a 9.5. Everybody gave that game a 9.5.
Yeah.
That's Insomniac though, right? Insomniac is a top tier developer, completely purchased now and first party studio by PlayStation,
and didn't have their resources expanded over 2 to 3 different, PS4, PS4 Pro, and then PS5. It was like, we didn't have crunch. Well, no kidding. You had to make it on one console.
But they also
which is really good.
But they also did Spider-Man, Nate. They also did Spider-Man on PS4 and then upped it on PS5. That's one studio, dude. One studio that did basically 3 games. So, honestly, what it comes down to is Jim Ryan just shouldn't have said what he said. That's what it comes down to. But if you still own an Xbox, you still want next-gen Xbox. Because why? Because it runs all your games better. You have a PS4, you want a PS5. Because why? Because you're going to get PS5 exclusives, and it's going to run all your PS4s better. What it comes down to is Jim Ryan just shouldn't have said that sentence.
They need to at least the thing that's going to break this even, I think, is the fact that the up-resing, the FPS boost, the way they're going to enhance the games for PS5 will be what makes the difference here. What will make you feel like that purchase of the PS5, I think for certain people, will feel more legitimate, right? Yep. Okay, you know what? Maybe this game is coming out on PS4 as well, but man, they did a ton of it and, a ton of changes to this game, and it's amazing on PS5. Just like you said, I think it's really going to come down to how they work that for all the games they're going to be releasing over the next 2 years, if this is how it's going to be.
Well, I think looking forward, right, if you go for PS5, if you keep an exclusive PS5, then everybody can pour their resources into the PS5 version and make it that much better, right? That's what we're losing when you split the developer base. Because now, you have to dumb down the version for the PS4 because it's just not capable of what the PS5 is, especially when you add in the DualSense controller. Dude, Returnal, when the raindrops hits the suit of the main character, you feel it in the controller. You're not going to feel that on the PS4.
Well, I guess with all this being said, guys, PS5 has incredible games, PS4 has incredible games, and we're going to get lots of games on both, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I just really wish, kind of leading up to this, Sony kind of made Xbox look like the laughing stock, being like, oh, we're just going to focus on next gen. And then they immediately kind of didn't do that. And then, it's just been a thing that's flared up on the internet as of late that I kind of just wanted to point out because I'm like, well, come on, guys.
Sure.
Come on. But I'm really excited to find out, obviously more God of War and Horizon Zero Dawn. I cannot wait to see what they do with the PS5 versions of this.
Oh, it's going to be amazing.
Absolutely.
Alright, Steve. Of Bird and Cage. A really bold story that honestly caught me quite by surprise. We got a musical, first-person shooting, puzzle-solving game. Alright, Steve, kind of like I mentioned in the intro, this game is a bit of a mixed bag of a few genres, and one thing that really stood out is the musical side, because it's not like your happy Disney musical, it's your really sad telling story, really bold, in my opinion, of a story, that somehow plays along to a musical. And what I really actually appreciated from Caprica's productions is the music, man. It was phenomenal. This is like this sort of heavy metal soundtrack with all sorts of familiar artists. Some of my personal favorite bands like Asking Alexandria, we got Guns N' Roses, Evanescence, all sorts of bands came together to make this soundtrack. But the gameplay itself and the game, man, well, let's get into that.
Oh yes. So you basically start off, there's 7 main characters in this game. So one of them is Gita, who you actually is the protagonist of this game. And you start off and you're in your bedroom, you're playing with your mum, and it starts off well, then the music's nice and relaxed, the piano playing, and then your dad walks in and that's where it starts. And I will say one thing, this game is not for the light-hearted, as it does reference a lot of physical, emotional and substance abuse as well. So just be wary of that.
Yeah, that's what really, I guess, could make this game stand out, is, aside from it being a musical, is that this is a very heavy choice-based game. There are 4 endings to this, and we both ended up with 2 different endings that were very different. And I appreciate that about this game. Although, like you said, you run out of time too fast. You can, quickly press start and restart the entire segment, but sometimes that leads you into listening to the beginning of a song before the gameplay starts for like a minute. So there's some errors with this game, unfortunately.
Yeah, and then the next thing you know, you're 25 years old. You're Gita, you're an aspiring singer, and then you're on your way. Unfortunately, you're addicted to designer drugs, GSBV, I believe it is. You have a drug dealer that's not very friendly. Then you have Ari, which is your drug dealing boyfriend, who cheats on you and everything else like that. You also have your alcoholic dad, a creepy boss, and then obviously you have this weird character called Brez, who seems to be following you as well through the story.
Yeah, man, there's not a lot of characters to this game, but the characters, they all have very great, I don't want to say great personality, but unique and standoutish personalities. But the graphics, man, is what really ended up taking away from some of these characters. Like the boss, he just kind of looks like this blob. Your father, one of the more important characters in the game, looks just all in all bad. Like the main character herself, Gita, she's the only one that looks really okay. And it's like that throughout the entire game, man. Out of nowhere, your little bar runs out at the bottom, and then you start getting shoved or punched or whatever. in my opinion, took away from it. And the mechanics of it all, dude, really sloppy. Like, the hand-to-hand combat is so cumbersome and one of the worst I've ever seen in a game. Interacting with objects is also atrocious, unfortunately, and that's what really kind of takes away from this whole entire experience.
Yeah, and I had issues with, as I mentioned before, like opening doors. There's one part where you have to open lockers, or you try and investigate, find items, whether you're trying to escape or do something. And I got stuck behind the locker door because I couldn't get my cursor enough to actually push it. You couldn't walk through it and it'll automatically close like you would imagine a locker. I had to physically close the door and then open another locker door so I can get out. And I just, and like you said, just picking up stuff, opening drawers, because if you can't do it straight away, and that bar's just going so quick, and you've got so many tasks and things you have to find, you know, whether it's to sort of set up a trap or find a credit card or anything to help you, like whether it's escaping or to help you on the story.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it in time. And then, like I said, if you don't do it, then there's consequences. You get pushed, punched, all nice, good things.
Yeah, exactly. Now, were honestly a few scenes when you would kind of be able to maybe seek a little vengeance, and I missed it, and I would get that satisfaction of restarting that section and actually completing it. Like, I did get a little bit of satisfaction with a couple of these parts, but unfortunately the rest of the experience being so just cumbersome, it just takes away, man.
So Nate, so obviously of Bird and Cages, you being trapped as the bird in the cage as Geeta, with the horrible lifestyle you're in, the dead-end job, can't get nowhere in life, and the main idea of the game is just trying to escape from all that, leave it all behind and try and start a new life. But unfortunately, with the bad mechanics and everything that sort of pulled me out of the experience, unfortunately, the graphics, I love the music. It might not be everyone's taste as well, because not everyone likes heavy rock music or heavy metal. I found it very fitting for the game, and I did like the way the storyline was going. But unfortunately for me, with like I said, the graphics and the mechanics, which is what we're basing on the game, I'm giving this a 4 out of 10. How about you?
All right, man. I'm honestly just a little higher than you. I'm gonna have to give this one a 5 out of 10 because I really did appreciate the fact that this is a musical that plays along with a very dark story. And there are moments when, you know, you're getting punched and it plays to the music and it actually feels like very theatrical. But man, like you said, so much from this game, man, is just frustrating and cumbersome, and you're just constantly restarting because you just can't accomplish your goal. So 5 out of 10 for me, man.
With this unique metal album presented through a short decision-based dark narrative story, has so much potential, but the bad graphics and the game mechanics just pull you out of the game.
Alright, so this week I'm reviewing Beautiful Desolation on the PlayStation 4.
I need your help, Dom. I have to get up to the Penrose.
Why the hell do you need to get up to that thing? It's a big alien spaceship or something.
Alright, so Beautiful Desolation. This, to me, was a beautifully boring game. It is a isometric, top-down, point-and-click puzzle-solving game, and it starts off fairly strong with you and your wife, you being Mark, you just having your typical couple bantering while you're on your drive. And then out of nowhere, this huge anomaly called a Penrose, an alien ship, just crashes into the Earth. And kind of like your typical Hollywood movie, everything starts going crazy, cars start crashing, and you actually crash. And then boom, flash forward 10 years later, you're talking to your brother, and it seems as though your wife has passed on, and the people, the humanity, we don't really know much about this Penrose. So making a masterful plan with your brother, because he's a pilot, you decide to go to the Penrose and kind of figure out what it is all about. So you're finally on the ship with your brother, and while trying to tread lightly for those who actually do want to play this game, well, all hell breaks loose. Again, it flashes forward in time. You don't even know what time it is. Like, we're talking years in the future, and you and your brother have separated and crashed in what appears to be Africa. And what really shines about this game is the actual setting. It's this tribal cyberpunk setting that takes place in Africa, something you don't really see. And again, where this game shines, the graphics for the most part are pretty decent. I love this style of game, that kind of sort of realism. It just takes me back to those Commandos days and just those late 90s games. So now that you've crash landed, this is, in my opinion, where the game really just teeters off. The gameplay is all about you exploring and interacting with the world, be it objects or different characters. And some of the characters are fairly interesting in the game, but while you're talking to them, it's just kind of this static image, and it's really kind of takes you out of it. Although them being interesting, this game, it gives you no direction. And like I said, you're just out exploring. So you'll encounter this character, it'll give you a quest, and then you'll go to look at your quest line, and it gives you a very generic explanation on what you have to do. Yes, you can scroll and look through your dialogue to see what you said, but in this game, half the time, I swear, it doesn't even really tell you what you're supposed to do. It's just such a frustrating disconnect. To reinforce what I'm talking about, one of the main quests at the very beginning is finding your brother. I finally found him, had this conversation with my companion, and then was left to figure out how to save him. I found an object fairly close to him that I needed to interact with another object. Again, I have no idea what any of these objects are that I need to find. I scour everywhere in the area, nothing's there. Oh, and then I go and look on my quest to maybe get a better idea or a hint to what I'm supposed to do. But no, it says help and find your brother. I already found him. Why would it say this? This is so frustrating. This game is all about you just like going back to areas and just wasting time. I'm sorry. I did not enjoy this experience from what I got to play. This game, I'm sorry, I'm done talking about it. It's getting a 3 out of 10. The graphics at most are okay. Like, most of the time it's okay, I guess. I don't know. The controls are clunky. The story, I guess, is sort of interesting, but I was just so bored the entire time. So 3 out of 10. Beautiful Desolation was a beautiful disappointment. Clunky controls, lack of direction, and mediocre voiceovers, these all lead to just a very okay game that you might want to stay away from on PlayStation.
And for those wanting to dig even deeper into this spectacular African-inspired setting, a free digital 80-page art book plus downloadable soundtrack composed by Mick Gordon. A twisted, sci-fi African adventure awaits. Dare you venture into its beating heart?
The guys and I were live over at twitch.tv/theofficialitg. We're there, we hung out for the night and played some Rocket League. Well, who was the winner? Let's find out.
Oh, we both.
Got it. Oh, nice.
Let's go open that down low.
Whoa! Man, I keep getting turned around here. Haha. Yeah, I did.
Oh,
Man.
yeah, I thought at least you were going to get a couple tiles there. Not a chance.
Oh, miss.
Ah, get it out of here, get it out!
Oh, miss again. Okay. I'm off.
Nice.
Nice. There it is.
Oh, wow, that was
Nice.
sneaky.
I think I hit it, but I
How?
hit it too late.
He hit it. Scott hit it down, I think.
Because
I was like, that just went in that hole.
Yeah, it did. Man.
And Sky, you're our best player, bro.
Oh, boom! In the air!
I don't know about that.
In the air!
Look, it literally just dropped straight down. We all missed it.
I just went straight on the ground and hit me.
Oh, man.
Just ran. Didn't stand a chance.
God, I suck at this game.
It's so hard, man.
Oh, I thought you.
Yeah,
there we go. There we go.
Airborne.
There we go. Come on, hit something to get in. Do it. Do it.
Oh,
do
no.
it. No, no. What's this?
Yep. Turn it. Turn it.
Working on it. Working on it. There we go.
Should have gone for the tackle.
There we go. There we go.
Oh, nice.
Light it
True,
up,
that
come
was
on.
a good save.
Oh, dude, it didn't bounce up high enough. Dang
Missed
it.
Come on.
Whoa. Oh, I was aiming for you, Corey.
I was just trying to see the ball.
I was up top. I was trying to get you. Ah.
What the?
Oh, okay.
I'm
not sure what happened, there, but I'll take it.
I scored on us, I think, there.
Yeah, you open that tile and hit it back off the wall.
Nice.
Oh, man, I'm your best player, too. Scott, we're doing really well undercover.
Oh, man. That was... That's funny. Corey just wrecked me.
Like, everybody's just here. I'm like, I gotta hit somebody.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
Oh, I missed it.
Come on, come on, come on.
Nope.
Got it, got it.
Oh, no. Yes. Steve, clutch, man.
Yeah, that was super clutch.
Oh.
Get that thing out of here.
Man.
I keep hitting it the wrong way. Sorry, team. There it is. Whew.
Oh,
Ain't whipping.
Oh, come on, really?
yeah, double touch. Yeah.
Get it, get it, get it.
Oh no, I hit on the other side.
Oh, Corey.
Oh, did I even? I don't even think I touched it.
Nice.
Could have been good.
Oh, is there a hole over there? Oh, I wasn't sure if the floor was open.
Whoa! No, no,
We had a
no!
hole there.
Oh, that was close.
Oh, get that
Come
thing
on, come on,
away.
come on!
Someone kept me in the air.
Nice save.
No! Man.
Good job, Corey.
Oh man, it went by everybody. I was just waiting for someone to take the shot at that thing.
I could just picture Brian just screaming at his screen like that we're all noobs.
Oh yeah.
Take the shot.
Come on, come on.
Why am I flying in the air? I thought I was on the wall.
Oh,
Crap, it just rolled. Nice.
I
Nice.
lost my grip.
oh no!
Uh-oh.
Yes!
Oh.
Oh!
Died it. Oh.
The one
Wow.
spot it couldn't land at. I deflected it, and that's exactly where she landed.
Ah.
Man. I was like, cool, out of there.
And
And another one for Scott.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so
Nice. I like the rocket jumps. We're seeing it more.
oh no! Ah.
Oh, no.
Wow. Wow. That was wild.
Waiting on that one.
I hate this ball control sometimes, or ball vision. Oh, what?
Get it out, get it out. Nice,
There it
nice.
is.
There's a lot of jokes I'm struggling not to make right now.
Appreciate that.
A good thing.
Think of the show, think of the show.
Yeah. That's right. No, not like this.
Nice.
Oh, no.
Whoa.
Sudden death.
Oh, I jumped over it. Man, we've got a lot lit up on our side, guys.
There's a hole.
Yeah, we do.
Oh.
Keep
That's
alive.
it. That's it, Scott.
No!
Oh no!
Yeah,
oh no!
just-
Oh no!
Go for the tackle.
Oh! Oh man! There's so many holes over here. Oh no!
Man.
Nice.
All right.
Uh-oh.
Yeah!
No
yeah, yeah.
way.
Come on!
Well, that got a
Get
little
out
weird.
of here.
Come on, boy, we
Oh!
got this. Nice.
Damn it.
Oh no!
Nice save.
Whoa. Oh no! That's
no.
in. That's in.
Oh, no.
Oh!
Oh!
Oh,
I don't have the
Wow!
floor.
Oh!
Floor.
Oh, man.
Keep going.
Go! Go! Go!
No, get that blue ball out of here.
Oh,
You gotta stop that.
come on! Oh no!
Saved it.
I've no
I missed.
boost. Nice.
Oh, man.
Oh,
This is awful. Can't handle the pressure. Not doing it.
oh.
oh! Holy crap!
Oh,
Oh
wrong
no!
way.
Oh no! Uh-oh.
One second. Give me a break.
Just throw my
No.
body.
There
on
it is. There it is.
I couldn't get it. Man, look at the size of the hole you guys had to work with.
Oh,
Defense.
It's an itty bitty hole.
That was a good game.
Yeah, it was. That was
Wow.
close.
Good job, guys.
guys.
Wow.
Rain, orange.
Good job. Well, that'll wrap up this week's episode. Thank you for hanging out with us. And of course, you can always be a part of our show. All you have to do is go to insidethegame.ca or hit us up in Discord, where there you can submit your clip and end off our show. This week, we've got Puma for the win. Until next week, everybody, we'll see you inside the game.
Clean, I have a trail.
1 op 4 remaining.